Go.
All right. Hello there, everyone, and welcome to tonight's episode of The Bottom Line. I'm your host, Ryan McCombs. As always, make sure to hit the like button on this video, hit subscribe, and follow me on X at RAMccombs326 so that I can keep you updated on the issues that matter most. Also, if you haven't done so already, make sure to check out my Substack, which you can find at ramccombs.substack.com. Today, I am joined by my colleague Nick Bausch. We're going to be debating Israel and immigration policy and what the United States approach ought to be to both of these issues. Nick has helped me in the past with SGA campaigns. He also works as a columnist with me at Right Side Talks LLC, so I'm very happy.
Wait, where'd he go? Wait, where'd he go?
I'm sorry. My whole thing just disconnected, and then I didn't hear anything or see
Oh,
anything. I'm
well,
sorry.
you just called me, Nick.
Yeah, I did because I was worried it wasn't connecting time, but I'm back in
Oh,
here.
okay.
He back.
Jeez, technical
Okay.
difficulties.
All right, Cece, do I have to do the plug again?
Yeah, restart. Just try to make it a little bit quicker,
I'm
cause
sorry.
you got you want to just jump right into the topic. To be fair, when you do like a 2 minute plug, it makes people be like skip, skip, skip. They're just gonna hit the 15-second forward button.
I'll leave out the Substack part and I'll just get straight to that.
All right, ready?
All right.
Go.
Hi there, everyone, and welcome to tonight's episode of The Bottom Line. I'm your host, Ryan McCombs, and as always, make sure to hit the like button on this video, hit subscribe, and follow me on X at RAMccombs326 so that I can keep you updated on the issues that matter most. Tonight, we have a very special guest, my good friend and colleague, Nick Bausch. He helped me on my SGA campaign with Cecilia at St. Bonaventure. He is also a columnist with me over at Right Side Talks LLC, so we're happy to have him on the show. Nick, thanks for being here.
Thank you for having me.
Absolutely.
So we're going to be debating immigration and Israel today. We have very different takes, and I'm hoping this way it stays civil, and maybe we'll learn something from each other.
I hope
So
so.
I have a couple questions for Ryan to start this, just to gauge his opinions. It's been a while since we talked. So with the recent passing of Lindsey Graham, one of the biggest proponents of foreign policy in the United States,
Yes.
what are your opinions on the forever wars in the last 30 years and foreign policy in the Middle East?
Well, I think there are a few things to say concerning that. First of all, I think the word warmonger gets thrown around a lot by people on both the right and the left to imply that somehow Lindsey Graham and other like-minded individuals are promoting war for its own sake. But the traditional position of the Republican Party, if you look at what was implemented under Ronald Reagan, was peace through strength. So it's not war for its own sake. It's war for the sake of getting ahead of what could be a much larger conflict. So we see that with Israel repelling the aggression of Hamas. We see it with the strikes on Iran, both in 2025 and then again with Operation Epic Fury, taking preemptive action to get ahead of the mullahs in Tehran obtaining a nuclear weapon. Ukraine, getting ahead of that problem, getting ahead of Putin potentially pushing through Lithuania or Poland under Article 5 of NATO, we would then be required to put boots on the ground. So I think when people say warmonger, they're forgetting that a conflict that is uncontained is a conflict that is inevitably going to grow. So I think Lindsay was about deterrence. I think it is important that President Trump is reestablishing the deterrence that was squandered under President Biden. And I would say to your point that it can seem when we look at, for example, at Iraq, that yeah, we have these forever wars, and
Right.
unfortunately, we entered Iraq with really bad intel that we got from an Iraqi national that was passed along by the German government. Really bad intel saying there were WMDs, and unfortunately, you get into a war like that with bad intel, and it was too late, and it's very hard to pull those troops out. And Biden's pull out of Afghanistan was disastrous, but again, that's why we need strong leaders like Trump and Lindsey Graham to correct that. And I don't think they get enough credit from people on the far right and the far left.
I agree with you that you do need deterrence in foreign policy. I think the Ukraine war is a perfect example of that. We're fighting against Russian imperialism right now, and it's important that we fund an ally to weaken our rivals. But when it comes to the Middle East, in my opinion, uh, I don't think it's deterrence. Iraq was never a threat to us, and we should check that intel we're getting with our own intelligence agencies. We have one of the best in the world, maybe the most questionable in the world, behind a few others. But I just lost my train of thought. But yeah, the Iraq War was a mess. We were there 20 years, and we didn't have any idea of what we were doing. We wanted to put in a new government, didn't work. We wanted to bring democracy and freedom to the Middle East, and these things never work. People, their own citizens and the only people that live there have to figure it out on their own and decide what kind of government they want. It could be a Shiite monarchy like it is in Iran. It could be a Sunni theocracy like it is in a lot of the Middle Eastern countries right now. And it's not our job to police or deter people from attacking Israel. They were never a threat to NATO. None of these Middle Eastern countries, from what I can tell. It could be. What's your opinion on the oil? You think many of these wars are fought over oil and the American Empire?
Are you asking that generally or specifically in relation to like the Strait of Hormuz, or what are we talking
Yeah.
about?
I would say Iraq was. Many people think it was about the oil. I would say Libya. A lot of people thought it was about the oil. A lot of these Middle East countries are rich in oil. We put military bases in Saudi Arabia in the 1900s simply because we built an oil city there and we funded it. And that was really our first military base in the Middle East. How much do you think oil plays a role in, say, the Iran War or the Iraq War?
Well, I think it definitely plays a role. I don't know if it's the primary thing, but you also have to understand that I don't think it's necessarily a good thing for our enemies to be in control of those kind of resources. I mean, oil is huge when you look at the relationship between Iran, Russia, and China. And when it comes to the Strait of Hormuz, to have Iran in control of that strait, I mean, we've seen what they've done to the ships that pass through, and we had that problem even with the Houthis under Biden, where they would attack our ships, they would blow up our ships, and Biden just wouldn't do anything about it. So yeah, I think it's definitely about oil. It's definitely about trade, but it's also about our national security because we have fanatics that are literally dictating who gets these resources and how they get them, and I just don't think that's a good thing.
I agree with you there. I think there's a lot of common ground here. And now that we can have a civil conversation, unlike we had in the Radskeller a few months ago.
I didn't think that was too bad. I didn't think that was too bad.
No, it was. I
This
was.
is
I
better.
was
This is
keeping my
much
mouth
better.
shut. All right. So let's move topics a little bit. You think this is a genocide that was happening in Gaza, in the West Bank? Maybe an ethnic cleansing, if you want to be a little nicer terms with it.
No, I don't, and I'll. There's a couple of reasons why I reject that narrative. First of all, I think a critical distinction has to be made between targeting civilians and targeting terrorists who have embedded themselves within civilian infrastructure. For example, we know I forget the name of the hospital. I'd have to look it up, but there was a one hospital in Gaza where one of the physicians working at that hospital was actually found to be a Hamas colonel. And one of the reasons we know this is because there was a hostage that was killed in this hospital. The doctor put an air bubble, injected an air bubble into her bloodstream. She died, obviously. And they took a video of it, the Hamas terrorists, and they sent it to the parents. They emailed it. And so Israel blew up that hospital, which had Hamas colonels working in it, which had Hamas tunnels and other infrastructure in it, which was being used to kill hostages taken from Israel on October 7th. So I think it's easy to look at this conflict and just say, "Oh, look, Israel's dropping bombs," or even like Trump sarcastically said the other day, "BB, you don't have to bomb a building every time someone walks into it." Well, That's not what they're doing. It's not anytime someone walks into it. It's that they have clearly identified Hamas, a Hamas network within this infrastructure. And another thing I'll say is that there are miles and miles and miles of bomb shelters under Gaza. And what Hamas does is they use them. They keep the people out of them. They intentionally put their own people in harm's way. And whenever Israel has tried to help, whenever Israel and the United States have tried to provide humanitarian aid to Palestinians, Hamas militarizes it. They usurp humanitarian aid, they destroy it, they use it for dual purpose, which is why Israel has a dual use enforcement policy, why certain materials are not allowed over the border into Gaza. And they shoot innocent people. As they're going to get food. So I would encourage anyone who thinks it's a genocide to name one other genocide where the alleged aggressor was feeding their enemy, where the alleged aggressor was putting out messages, dropping leaflets. I think people have got to understand what Israel is up against. The harsh reality is that innocent people die in every war. We don't want that. We don't go out of our way to directly and intentionally take innocent life. But it happens when the terrorists are cowards and they hide behind their own people. Well, those people unfortunately lose their lives in many instances, and it's tragic. But it's something that we have to be willing to accept. And ultimately, the best thing for the Palestinians would be to have a different government. But I don't know if they want that. 70% of them chose Hamas when given the opportunity. So it's very hard because not only do we need to demilitarize Gaza, but we need to de-radicalize it.
Okay, so back to the terror network underground in the Gaza Strip. I know it's there. I've seen the tunnels. I know they're putting hostages down there. But 85% of the buildings in Gaza have been destroyed. That's a little overkill, isn't it?
I don't think so.
They
Not
leveled
when they're embedded all throughout. And another thing is you got to look at what we've done in other conflicts throughout history. I mean, look at the atomic bomb. I mean, we have flattened plenty of other places in order to secure a military victory. This is not the first time that we've seen something like this.
That is a great point. But this isn't the 1940s anymore. Nobody's using nuclear weapons. Nobody's carpet bombing anymore. We have the technology to do targeted strikes. Israel proved it in Iran. They could send a drone up to the back of somebody's house, detonate it, and kill whoever they want with precision. And they haven't done that in Gaza. And it's just been an endless bombing campaign. I've seen videos. This could be propaganda. It's on Twitter. I'm sure it's a little fishy, but I've seen videos of Israeli soldiers using like the Gazan civilians as target practice. And it seems insane to me that's happening in what we consider a Western ally, our greatest ally in Israel. And I think we need a lot more criticism, and I think we're working that way. The American public has swayed a lot the last couple of years on their opinions of Israel, and to this point, the ICC has an arrest warrant out for Benjamin Netanyahu for war crimes and crimes against humanity because of this. And Israel was just rated the #1 most hated country in the world, becoming a pariah state in front of North Korea and Iran. And we're just behind them at #4, on our way to pariah state if we keep following their lead.
I fact-checked that statement, and there is multiple different news reportings of people who are medical workers or who are doing humanitarian aid stating that the IDF personnel of shooting Gaza civilians in highly specific patterns, describing the action as almost like a game of target practice. So there is evidence of that occurring.
Do you have a source on that, Cecilia?
Yeah, we got Sky News for one of them. We have a newspaper that is based out of Israel, it looks like.
By the name of Haaretz by any chance? Because that's not a reliable source. Maybe
no,
it's not. I don't.
No, the BBC as well. There's the BBC as well. There's videos of it. There's multiple different sources coming out of Israel. There's the BBC. I mean, there's a lot of different sources, but and PBS, WCIV. So it has been New York Times as well. I mean, there's a lot of different sources. So that isn't just a Twitter propaganda video. That is something that has gone to the mainstream news. So.
And that also leads to the point. There's been 360 journalists killed in Gaza and southern Lebanon in the past 3 years since October 7th. Why would the Israeli government be targeting with missile strikes journalists just trying to do their jobs, trying to get the truth out there? What is so bad about the truth in these places that is you have to kill the people trying to expose it? Why can't we have the truth out of there?
Well, you have to look at who these journalists are being funded by. Many of them are Al Jazeera, which is funded by Iran and Qatar, is explicitly opposed to the government of Israel, is in support of Islamist governments, Iran being the number one sponsor and exporter of terrorism, sponsoring Hezbollah, exporting them to that region. We even can see, for example, the Al Jazeera journalist that Zoran Mamdani just celebrated, and he mourned his death, and he said it was so horrible that Israel killed him. And then videotapes come out of him walking through a street shooting off an AK-47 up into the sky like this, and terrorizing the neighborhood he was in. So last I checked, journalists don't carry AK-47s, and I don't trust Iran and Qatar funded media to ever say anything good about Israel and the United States. But unfortunately, that a lot of people will take their word for what's happening in those regions, and that's why we have a perception problem.
I think no matter who is funding the press, they should be protected by both sides of whatever military operation is going on. They should be off limits to be killed. We saw in Iraq, we had American journalists going in there, documenting, interviewing American officers and military men. It's insane that Israel's getting away with the murder of hundreds of journalists. And they're not all. I doubt they are all funded by Qatar, Iran, and Islamist fundamentalists. I doubt it.
Well,
And
Al Jazeera is. That's one example. I'm sure they're not all Al Jazeera, but a lot of them are. A lot of them are, including the one that was most recently killed, which is why I cite him as an example.
okay, and then let's jump to a different question. Does Israel have the right to expand? Like, should the international community and should we allow? So right now they're invading southern Lebanon. I have a feeling they're not going to leave it. They didn't leave the Golan Heights in Syria. They already have half of the Gaza Strip. Do you think they will ever be happy with their expansion, or do you think they're going to stop after this war?
Well, I'd say first of all that Gaza prior to 2005 actually belonged to Israel, and this is one of the reasons that Netanyahu got back into power. A lot of people don't realize this, but he was out of office for a time. He was prime minister. He got voted out. He got voted back in. And one of the reasons is under the liberal government that they had during those years, they withdrew their own citizens. Israel withdrew its own people from Gaza. They even took the graves with them. They dug up the graves and took them with them. And they gave the Gaza Strip to the Palestinians. And the Palestinians repaid them with Hamas. So if you're Israel, how do you feel about that? Well, probably not good. If you uprooted your own people to have peace with Palestinians and Palestinians repay you with terrorism, that was a pretty bad decision on your part to ever give them that area to begin with. And that has been the de facto Palestinian state for 20 years. So it begs the question, has it brought peace to the region? And the answer unequivocally is no. It has not brought peace to that region, even though that was the intention of the Israelis in giving it to them. Another thing is that they had a deal under Bill Clinton. They could have had a deal under Bill Clinton where they could have had most of the West Bank and they would have had Gaza. And they rejected it. They turned it down. And Bill Clinton himself, Democrat, said that the reason they turned it down is because they didn't really care about having a state or a homeland for their people. They just wanted to kill Jews. and that's really their idea. It's from the river to the sea.
Yes, I've heard
From
that.
the river to the sea means they want to wipe the Jews into the sea. That's what Yasser Arafat said, and he was the founder of Palestinian terror. So I think Israel should have that land back. It was theirs before '05, and it hasn't borne good fruit. It's been rotten since Palestinians have taken it over. With Lebanon, the legitimately elected president of Lebanon actually loves Bibi Netanyahu. They have a great agreement. They want Hezbollah out of their lives, out of their government, because Hezbollah is usurping the rights of their own people. So, yes, Israel is there, and I agree with the position of our Secretary of State that they should remain there.
It kind of ruins the sovereignty of Lebanon, and Lebanon has been to war with Israel multiple times. They don't have much of a military to protect themselves, anyways, from a Hezbollah threat. And most of these Hezbollah militants, they're Palestinians that fled Israel or fled Palestine in search of better lands. And the Israelis and the Palestinians kind of have both ideological fanaticism to be the one state. Like neither want the two-state solution that I think is very important to the region. It'd be nice if everybody just got along, but with almost coming up on in 20 years, it'd be 100 years of war, and they're not going to just live together anymore. It's going to be one wins it all. I feel like, and I really hope that we could build a two-state solution. There's still time to figure it out. I bet if all the warfare stopped, they're gonna make sure there's no weapons in Gaza. I'm sure they're gonna clear out Hezbollah. They're working on it right now. And once this is all over, they know it's just gonna come back, right? It's gonna be a never-ending fight against the Arabs. Do you think so?
Are you talking about Lebanon?
I'm just talking about Palestinians, and they want the land that their grandfathers lived on back. And the
Well,
Israelis want the land that they had in the Torah.
well, correct. In Joshua, it says that the land there is for the Jewish people to possess. And what the Palestinians have argued for, once again, is from the river to the sea, which comes from Yasser Arafat, who actually, interestingly enough, said that Jordan was a Palestinian state. So people always ask the question, well, where do all these Palestinians go? Well, they should look to their own leader. He told them where to go. But what they've done is they've constructed this new identity where they have Gaza and the West Bank and really all of Israel. And that's really the difference between the two sides here. Israel is not does not exclude Arabs from their state. 20% of Israelis are Arab, 13% are Arab Muslims. Okay, but a Jew could not go live in Gaza. An Israeli could not go live in Gaza peaceably because of the environment there. So, yeah, I mean, until Palestinians have new leadership and are themselves de-radicalized, yeah, there's always going to be war because they will always commit unprovoked violence like they did on October 7th.
And yes, that will continue. What is the solution?
Well, the solution with Gaza, I think, is to give Gaza back to Israel. And the solution with Lebanon is to have the legitimately elected government be in complete control as opposed to Hezbollah. And that's really why you can't just go after the tentacles of terror. You have to get it at the heart, which is Iran. And that's what President Trump is doing, which I'm very happy about.
And why is this America's problem? Like why do we have to be involved in this decades-long war?
Well, I think there are a few things. First of all, there's a reason that in Iran they chant not just death to Israel, but death to America. And it's because they despise our way of life. And what people have got to understand about this conflict is that it's not going to end with Jews in Israel, because then the next target is Christians in the United States. And that's why they actually say in Iran, first Saturday, then Sunday, which means first we're going to kill off the Jews, then we're going to kill off the Christians. And like I said in my interview with Jack, I think God willing, they're going to find out that Friday comes first in that order. But I mean,
I don't think if they
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 hate our
can
way of life.
hurt Americans if they wanted to. Well, they are hurting Americans right now. They bombed their military bases last night.
Well, they've been hurting Americans for 47 years. I mean, look at the IEDs in
I don't think they can hurt
Iraq.
the homeland though.
Look at the barracks. Look at the hostages, huh?
If we actually wanted to protect ourselves in the homeland, we could do it very easily and have a defensive
We do
posture
by
instead of an
securing
offensive.
our border, but here's the thing, you have to get ahead of larger conflicts. And the foreign minister, the defense minister in Iran is literally on record saying we were trying to build a nuke and we couldn't keep it a secret. So when people say, "Oh no, Bibi's lying," they don't actually have nukes. They're not anywhere close to a nuke. Well, here's the thing, they do want a nuke. They couldn't keep it a secret, but that's exactly what their goal is. And on top of that, they can build other weapons along the way. And even if they can't reach us, they can reach our barracks, they can reach our embassies, and they have ballistic missiles. They shot ballistic missiles at the Holy Sepulchre, Catholic Church in Jerusalem. You know who protects that? Who has contracts with the Vatican to protect it? Israel. And the Al-Aqsa Mosque. They sent ballistic missiles at the Al-Aqsa Mosque. So even the Muslims, they hate the Muslims there, the Arabs there, because they've integrated with Judeo-Christian society. So they hate our way of life. They hate us not because of anything we've done to them, but because we aren't them, because we're infidels. That's the suicidal ideology of this regime. So to say that
What I
America
think they
can
hate
just take a step back and say we're not going to do anything, we're just going to be in our own bubble, I just don't think that's a moral position, and I think that is, and it's not a practical one either.
You know why I think they hate us though? We've been entangled in the Middle East ever since the creation of Israel. We have military bases surrounding their entire country. We've threatened to destroy their civilization in the last couple of months. This isn't just a fight against Muslim, it's a fight against the Azerbaijanis, the Kurds, every single person that lives and has helped build that civilization in Iran. And we've overthrown their government in the past. I believe we overthrew a democratically elected government in Iran
We
because
went
they want to
against the
nationalize
Shah, which I
oil.
think was a horrible thing, but
Yeah, we should have never done that. And we've made a lot of
Richard
mistakes.
Nixon said that was a horrible thing, and I agree with him.
They have a lot of reasons to hate us. And I think the best thing we could do is leave that whole region alone. We destroyed their nuclear capabilities in June of last year and then used that pretense to go back to war with them, even though apparently only two countries in the world could dig out the nuclear sites to get the uranium. This pretense of war makes no
Well,
logical
if you
sense in
have
my
ground
opinion.
troops that are trained to do just that, it wouldn't require a draft. You know, everyone says, "Oh, they're gonna have military draft." They're not. But there are troops that voluntarily are enlisted and have been trained to do something like that, to
No,
go in and secure that uranium.
I know there is, yeah, but we already destroyed it. I thought we destroyed all. Did we not in June of last year destroy all the nuclear
I would say
capabilities?
we diminished it, but we didn't finish the job, and every time people like myself say, "Finish the job," everyone says, "You're a warmonger, you're committing genocide," and it's like, no, you gotta eliminate the problem entirely. You can't just chip away at it. That's the problem, we're chipping away at it. For example, in June, when in of '25, when we did those strikes, Benjamin Netanyahu actually knew exactly where Khamenei was, and he sent fighter jets to go kill him, and Donald Trump was the one that turned it around. Now, I'm not saying President Trump made the wrong call, because there's intel he has that I don't have. But what I'm saying is based on what I know, I would have given Bibi the green light. I would have just said, go ahead and do it. Because my whole thing is you gotta get ahead of the problem and you gotta crush the problem. You can't chip away at it and then it comes back and then it comes back and then it resurfaces.
See, in the first place, I would have never killed the leader of another country. I think
The Ayatollah?
he's a leader of the Shiite religion. He's practically the Pope for the Shias. And that at this we're starting a religious war, and honestly nobody wins in war. I'm very anti-war in every way, and I think defense is the best protection. Or we should defend this country, and we should be isolationist for most of the world. We can trade with them because 40% of our food products come from around the world. We need the world, but we if it weren't for Israel, I think we could be good friends with Iran, and we could rekindle that relationship. But sadly, when Benjamin Netanyahu came to the Congress in the 90s, he said we have to destroy Libya, Syria, Iraq, Iran. When he said that, and then we followed through with it the next 30 years, it kind of tells me who's in charge.
Well, they in Israel, they say that Donald Trump's in charge of Bibi. So this is a problem that the press has created in both countries where they turn the people against their leaders and say, well, he's being controlled by so and so and he's being controlled by so and so. And I think that comes down to the isolationist, populist, protectionist kind of view that every other country is, I guess, has a different interest than we do. And I don't think that's true. I think there are overlapping interests.
No, there's
And to
definitely
just
overlap.
say that and to say that President Trump working in unison with Bibi ultimately means Bibi's in control, I just think that ignores the fact that there is mutual benefit in the relationship.
Okay, if there's mutual benefit, why would they have to lobby our politicians to get the ones they want into office and primary any that send against them?
Well, I think when it comes to primaries, ads only work if they resonate with voters. So when I hear people say things like, well, Israel bought a seat in Congress, Israel did not buy a seat in Congress.
You just funded it.
Americans who support the American-Israeli alliance put out advertisements, and those advertisements resonated with voters, and voters they exercised their right at the ballot box, and they chose someone. They chose Ed Gallery over Thomas Massey, and there's other examples. But that's a primary one where people said, "Oh yeah, Israel bought a seat in Congress." Ads only work if the voter sees the ad and says, maybe I should think twice. Maybe I should do my research. Maybe this person who's currently representing me doesn't actually reflect my values. So I don't think you could just say, um, all lobbying is bad or that. And I'm not saying you're necessarily saying that, but when you say, why do they have to lobby? I mean, there's a lot of countries that lobby in
There
the
is
United
Qatar
States.
as
That's
well.
that's why we have FARA. And I don't think it's a bad thing for Americans who support alliances with those countries to voice that opinion and to donate to that cause. I mean, that's part of their right as Americans to support that.
I would prefer no lobbying actually, but that's a different topic. I'd prefer if there were no corporate lobbying, no political action committees at all. Really, I'd like it and I wish Obama didn't legalize propaganda on the American citizens, and I wish the acts I'm blanking on them right now, but after 2001 9/11, we have a surveillance state right now, and they're building flock cameras all around the country, data centers to process all of our information that we do online, and it's dangerous. And now we're going to integrate our intelligence, everything that all that surveillance state in with the Israelis, and this goes to the point. Uh, the National Defense Authorization Act of 2027 was just denied, actually, and in Section 219, the integration of Israeli intelligence sharing and joint defense technology cooperation. We're not going to keep secrets from them anymore. We're going to work together on intelligence and practically be one of the same. You're gonna have a
No,
fusion.
I don't think we're one and the same. I think we're going to be working in unison with them, which we already do. And I think this is just furthering and building upon that relationship we already have with the Israelis. But um, again, we already share intelligence with them, and they share plenty of intelligence with us.
They give
Very
us a lot of
generous
bad intelligence.
intelligence that, huh?
They give us a lot of bad intelligence.
Well, like what, for example?
Would say Marco Rubio himself said it that the reason we're in war with Iran right now is because of Israel. And they didn't expect for the Strait of Hormuz to be closed, which was ridiculous. That Iran's a regional power. They have and they're $20,000 drones being shot down by $500,000 missiles. They're going to beat us economically in the long run here. And other intelligence that they'll say their nuclear sites weren't destroyed. Donald Trump came out and at like Thursday at night told us that they were obliterated out of existence. And for us to go back in there under the, I guarantee you, it was Israeli intelligence that got us to go back in there.
Um, I don't disagree with that, but you also have to understand that the MOU wasn't exactly working. Or are you talking about initially when we got back in?
Talk about initially when we went
Okay,
in February.
okay. And yeah, I'm sure that was part of it, but why would we ignore that if they're an ally of ours, number one? And number two, when you say Marco Rubio told the media that Israel's dragged us in, I don't really think Israel dragged us in. I think Israel took action against Iran, rightly so. I think we joined because we have a common enemy in Iran, and we have a common interest in deterring Iran, which is what peace through strength is all about, is establishing deterrence. So to say Israel dragged us in, I mean, Donald Trump has been very consistent on this issue throughout the course of his political career, and even before that. I mean, for decades, he has been saying consistently Iran must never be allowed to have a nuclear weapon. So to say that our president is like a puppet for Bibi when his position has been the same, and that's what I'm saying. I think it has a lot more to do with overlap and common interest than it does with Israel dragging us. I think that's a narrative that's pushed by both the far right and the far left, but I see a common interest. I don't see us being controlled by Israel. I see us working together with Israel.
Okay. Well, this goes to the next point. You consider Israel as a great ally, right?
Correct.
So, do you know who Jonathan Pollard is?
The last name that sounds familiar, but I couldn't really tell you.
Yeah, he was arrested in 1985 for treason. He was an American-Israeli citizen who worked for naval intelligence. He kept moving up through the years. The defense industrial or military industrial complex moved him around until he could get some of the highest clearance. And what he did for the Israelis is help steal Pakistani nuclear secrets that we had. And he also happened to steal military intelligence about the Arab countries, like what kind of weapons they had, if they were prepared for Israel to possibly attack Israel. He did this without any approval from anybody in the United States government, and all they had to pay him was $1,500 a month, which is pretty insane.
Who was paying?
I believe online it says the State of Israel. I don't know who exactly. I'm sure it was.
Can I have the name one more time, and I'll fact check that.
His name is Jonathan Pollard.
Okay, give me 1 second. Jonathan Pollard being paid.
I don't know. Do you know who John Kiriakou is? He's been doing a lot of podcasts recently.
No, I'm not familiar.
So he's a former CIA agent.
He pled.
Talks about.
Well, here's what it says. He said he pled guilty for spying for Israel, and he was paid for his espionage activities both during his initial operation and following his release from prison. So, yes. Yeah, he got released from prison in 2020.
Yeah.
Let's see. Pensions following release. Following his release from federal prison in 2015 and the completion of his parole in 2020. So he got released in 2015, not 2020. I apologize. Pollard and his wife immigrated to Israel. Upon his arrival in December in 2020, Israeli intelligence minister Eli Cohen announced that Israel would provide Pollard with a pension and stipend, stipend money, just like a stipend, with those received by former Mossad and Shin Bet operatives, and that comes from the Jerusalem Post and the Times of Israel, and Wikipedia as well. So a mix, and PBS, the encyclopedia. Well, I mean, it doesn't really matter if multiple sources are covering it. Britannica covered it, History Channel, Newsweek, Jerusalem Post, Times of Israel, Truth Without, and his Wikipedia page as well, NBC.
It's very well documented.
Yeah, it's very well documented. So it doesn't really matter if you don't trust PBS, because there's 8 other sources that say the same thing.
So they had an Israeli spy working for the American government. He was giving intel to Israel, working for the Mossad. They gave him a pension, for God's sakes, after he was supposed to serve a life sentence in jail. Luckily, Trump got into office after they actually put him on parole about 10 years into his sentence, and then Donald Trump got into office and pardoned the guy, which is insane. He committed treason against our country, and for some reason, when he got into office, he was released. Like, what are we doing to the people that commit treason? I also think there's a lot of people in our government that have committed treason, and we don't do anything about it. But this was a foreign agent inside of our government, actively manipulating our intelligence and working against the United States. And it's insane that we let it happen and we let it go unpunished. You have any
Yeah,
opinion on that?
I don't know enough about the case because like I said, I hadn't even heard the guy's name until you brought him up just now. I'd have to look into why Donald Trump pardoned him. I'm sure there's some story to that that I could look into. But
He's seen as someone who's
I
right
would
here.
say that there are I would say there's bad actors in every government and in every country. We even, for example, we saw an IDF soldier in Lebanon a few months ago who I believe destroyed a statue of
I'm gonna
the sacred.
correct Nick really quick. So Donald Trump did not directly pardon Jonathan Pollard himself. Pollard was sentenced to life in prison in 1987 for spying for Israel and was released on parole in 2015 after serving 30 years. After his like I said earlier, after his parole restrictions expired, he immigrated to Israel. However, during his final hours in office on January 20th, 2021, President Trump did grant a full pardon to Avim Sela, the Israeli Air Force officer who originally recruited and handled Jonathan Pollard. The White House and officials involved highlighted several reasons for the pardon. So the Israeli government, led by then Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, formally requested the pardon to close this unfortunate chapter in U.S.-Israeli relations, and as part of the diplomatic push, the State of Israel issued a full apology for Pollard's espionage. And the pardon was heavily pushed by key Trump allies and supporters, including Netanyahu, former Israeli ambassador Ron Dermer, former U.S. ambassador to Israel David Friedman, and major political donor Miriam Adelson. Both Pollard and Israeli officials welcomed the decision, stating it puts an end to the bleeding wound of the incident after decades of tension. So he didn't get. So they pardoned the guy. They pardoned the guy who they hired to do the spying. He just got out on parole after serving 30 years, which I don't think you should get parole for treason, but that's a whole nother thing. But that's like the rundown. That's the little rundown of how he got out.
Let's be honest. Somebody pulled some strings to get him out of jail and send him to Israel. That's pretty much all it is. And other than that, that's pretty much all I had written down. But do you want to go on to immigration, or it's 5:09?
Yes, let's move on to immigration. I do have a fundraiser actually to get to, but yeah, I want to talk about this issue too. So, with immigration, I actually, interestingly enough, I intended for my entire monologue that came out yesterday to be about immigration. I began writing that monologue on Thursday. I was on the plane heading to Turning Point's chapter leader summit. And I did end up talking about it for the first few minutes of my monologue yesterday. However, I ended up also doing a tribute to Lindsey Graham and talking about that horrible situation we have going on at St. Bonaventure with the professor that celebrated his death. Unfortunately, part of a pattern at St. Bonaventure, they celebrate death a lot over there. So we've got big problems on our hands. But I guess the main thing I want to talk about when it comes to immigration is I guess first of all, what's your position on immigration? Are you for mass deportations? Are you for targeted enforcement? Obviously, you're not for open borders. I don't think I got to ask that.
Yeah.
But what should be the approach here? Because I get the sense that with mass deportations, a lot of it is just rounding people up for numbers' sake. And I think we should have a more targeted approach. What say you?
I would say ICE has more funding than the Marines right now. If they want to do mass deportations, they can. I would say they can't make mistakes though. So yes, targeted would be preferential, and I believe they are doing that. But if you typically illegals group together, they live together, their families, you'll find one with the others, and one could lead you to another one. I think it should be a lot easier to do deportations, but with the media biting at everything to cause a problem out of it, it's making their jobs 10 times harder, and they're being painted as villains when they're really just enforcing U.S. immigration law. But yeah, I would like to mass deportations.
Now, I
Okay, so
want to ask you
I
to.
went around here.
I guess this is kind of old news, but I am just interested because we had another incident actually recently in Texas where an individual was shot by an ICE agent, shot through the car. Similar situation, one might say, to the Renee Good incident. Um, Now, when it comes to the Renee Good incident, and then I forget the other man's name, but the man or Alex Preddy, I believe was his
Yeah.
name. When it comes to the Renee Good incident, my opinion is that two people were in the wrong place at the wrong time, and I think it's very clear if you look at DHS protocol that you can only shoot into a vehicle if the person verbally expresses their desire to weaponize it. She did not do that. However, we also know that this officer was in a similar situation where he was hit and injured by a vehicle. So I don't know what was going through her mind. I don't know what was going through his. I think it was just two people at the wrong place at the wrong time. With Alex Preddy, I think the fault really lies with the officers because here you have an individual who's disarmed. And I find it interesting how we're supposed to be the party of the Second Amendment, and we weren't more upset by Republicans more or less demonizing this man for carrying a registered legal weapon. Is your opinion from this different?
No, that was a terrible mistake. He should have never lost his life. I do feel like Renee Good and Alex Preddy, they were protesters, antagonizers. They, if they could have, I'm sure they would have put themselves in that situation no matter what, though.
So but you don't take issue with the fact that Alex Preddy had a registered firearm and was disarmed and in cuffs when shot by the officer?
I do take issue. It's
Okay.
ridiculous. I
Okay.
believe the gun was out of his hand by the time they pulled the trigger. I don't think he was in
Right.
handcuffs yet. They're-
I would have to double check, but I believe he was restrained at that point.
Yeah, but when you're in like the heat of an issue, like like the police deal with it all the time. Like when you're dealing with that type of thing where a guy's resisting arrest, and I'm not sure if these ICE agents are properly trained because they're mass conscripting them, paying them
Well,
very well
that's a
actually.
concern, but what's even more concerning is the officer actually in the Renee Good incident had been on the job for quite a long time.
I believe he was a veteran too, right?
I think he might have been.
Yeah, which
So
is
this is a problem all across the board. So then it begs the question, is that a training problem or is it a culture problem within DHS? Or is it both?
um since we know what that ICE agent he had all the training he probably could have gotten through the U.S. military and on the service for 20 years ish, right? Um, it doesn't seem to be a training problem. Uh, Sometimes you're just quick to pull the trigger, I guess, and it's a tragedy, but these things happen. And he should have Alex Preddy should not have put himself in that situation. You should never resist arrest in the first place.
So I guess, yeah, we'll have to agree to disagree on the interpretation of events there. But I want to talk about mass deportations again. This is my last question for you when it comes to immigration. How do you cut through the noise when you have individuals that support mass deportations? Maybe someone like Nick Fuentes or someone just of that brand of politics, we'll say, who supports mass deportations, but they're doing so maybe not motivated by national security and more so motivated by racism and employing a lot of bigoted rhetoric. How do you kind of cut through the noise and get people and make the case that it's about national security when for a lot of those individuals it's really about hatred?
Would say there's a lot of hate on the right when it comes to immigration. They see the Somalian fraud. They see the law, like the lawlessness in our cities, and typically it's racially motivated. I would never judge by just race. I think it's the content of the character, not the color of the skin. Um, there is a lot of people that are assuming that it's not just national security. It's like integrity and sovereignty. Like in order to have a country, you have to have borders. And at
Would
the end of
agree.
the day, these people have to be moved out of our country. We need to know who's in the country at all time because of national security and things like that. And they got to go through the legal process. I know it takes 10 plus years, but it's worth that being an American. Luckily, I was born into it, and I I I, I don't really mind the H-1B visas as much. I do think we
Really.
want talent from outside the world. Yeah. I don't think we should
Don't you
have
think
me
there
in
should
them.
be some kind of limitations on what countries, how many?
Yes, yes.
Okay.
I would say we should take them from our European cousins and our allies throughout definitely countries that are friendly to us. We shouldn't be taking people in from Afghanistan or Iraq or Syria. Um, but we need immigrants at the end of the day, and we should get them legally. Maybe we need a whole restructuring of the immigration system. But these people gotta. We have to mass deport them. They could reapply. They could do it the right way. It's as simple as that.
All right. Well, that's all the questions that I have for you. Immigration. I don't know if there's any questions you have for me or any further you wanted to go on that topic, but
I
I
got
think we've
one.
had a great discussion.
I got one more question.
Yeah,
So
go for it.
I actually just wrote an article about the European immigration crisis. I don't know if you read it.
Yes. I did.
Um,
I skimmed through it. I know it was about Islamic migration to Europe
yeah,
and Italy in
we
particular, I think you wrote about, correct?
I wrote about Italy a little bit, Germany, England.
Okay.
Um, but we've seen sexual harassment, abuse, drug use, rape, all of these things increasing like talking tenfold. It's insane. In these European countries, and all these immigrants happen to be from countries that we once had problems. America, in particular, invaded, bombed. Let's say Syria, Iraq, Afghanistan. A lot of immigrants coming from there. North Africa. Um, do you think that this mass immigration, the 83 million immigrants from the Middle East and Sub-Saharan Africa, could be a little bit caused by us and the destruction of these people's
Well,
homelands?
no, I don't. I think when people are living in a situation of desperation, that they're gonna migrate anyways. I don't think it has to do with us. I think you got a lot of people who are in bad situations, and you have a lot of people who just are not good people, and they come to wreak havoc. They come to introduce ideologies that are at odds with America. So I think it's a mixture. I think it's a mixture of dire situations, and then people whose intent maybe is not so good. But I think they're gonna come here regardless. I think they're gonna come here anyway to the United States. I don't think it has to do with us.
Yeah, it is, and we do support them. We give them hotel rooms, EBT,
Yeah,
uh,
right, which,
credit
I mean,
cards,
to
$10,000
think
on them.
that Americans are subsidizing these individuals, not only are we not benefiting from it, but we're actually subsidizing them to our own detriment,
Yeah.
and I'm laissez-faire. The taxes in this country are ridiculous,
Mhm.
but if we're gonna have them, you might as well be benefiting from the services you're paying into, but we're not even getting that, so it's a disgrace. It's
I
disgusting.
I do wish our politics wasn't so focused on foreign policy and our education system. Like I think it's been 20 some odd years of decline in test scores.
Yeah, it's
The literacy
horrible. I
rate is
mean, the
dropping.
penetration just keeps going down, 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 down.
It's a
Uh,
sad thing to watch, but
yeah.
I enjoyed our discussion, man.
Yeah, it's
Um,
been great, and thank you again for coming on the show. I'm always happy to have you. You were the first person to respond. You were very eager to come on, and these are two great topics. And I think most of the discussions around these topics are not civil, number one, and I think most of them also tend to get really conspiratorial, and we see a lot of voices online that are loud and proud and maybe pushing not the best theories about things. But I think
I was
we
tempted.
were able to stick to each other's philosophies, and we were able to stick to the facts, and that's what made it good. So thank you for coming on.
Well, it was a pleasure.
All right. Thank you, everyone, for tuning in, and make sure to tune into our show next week.
Okay.
What'd you think, Cecilia?